Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Sunday morning to you all. I hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day. And I hope everyone's been having a great weekend out there so far. We got a lot to talk about in this morning's videos. We do have a powerful storm system that's going to sweep across the middle of the country this week, and with it, it's going to bring a multi-day opportunity for severe weather. And there's going to be a cold side of this storm system too that's going to bring a blizzard, most likely for areas of the plains, and just a swath of heavy snowfall. Now, this swath of snowfall is probably going to be very spotty, and we're still trying to figure that out, but we do know there's going to be strong winds. So we're pretty confident in that for a pretty large area that we're going to have a strong wind opportunity. So we're going to speak on everything. Everything will be sectioned out very well in this video. We're going to nerd out with you guys, explain this storm system setup like we always do, and just get very detailed like we like to do on this channel. After we get done doing that, we will speak on today's forecast like we do in these morning videos. And with that, we will have a little segment for severe weather chance that will be there today for areas of like southwest Oklahoma, Texas. And I do think this will produce a few tornadoes, and maybe one, two, and it might not produce at all. But this is just kind of one of those setups that you got to watch. There's a sneaky tornado threat across areas of the plains. Very small area, but it's there for today, so we'll speak on that. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Getting this video out a little bit later than I typically do, and I've been struggling to get it going for whatever this morning. Just been one of those mornings. So if you guys got anything that I could pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. So let's get going here. So we're going to start this off by speaking on tomorrow's severe weather threat, which has increased. And now, I want to say this right off the dot. Tomorrow's severe weather threat is really for tomorrow night. I mean, maybe even after midnight, as kind of the beginning stages of a 48-hour severe weather event, maybe pretty much a multi-day severe weather event, even into the nighttime hours of those days, if that makes sense, is going to get going. But kind of the beginning stages of this event gets going tomorrow night across Oklahoma, areas of Texas, all the way up into Kansas. So even though this is tomorrow's severe weather outlook, just keep in mind, if you get into tomorrow evening and you're like, man, what is going on? We haven't seen any storms in Oklahoma City, Tulsa, down to Wichita Falls. It happens mainly tomorrow night. So I'll show you what I mean with that here in a second. But Oklahoma City, Tulsa, down to Wichita Falls, just north of the Dallas-Fort Worth area, a slight risk for tomorrow. It means you have in this case, just a level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather. And then we got the dark green. That's a marginal risk, level 1 out of 5. Risk of severe weather. And we have a huge area of just could run the risk of some thunderstorms, but the severe weather will probably be here for tomorrow night. What's driving this tornado threat? There is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. Now I want to add this. This could increase. So it could bump up to a 5% risk, which is the next category. Tulsa, Oklahoma City, down to Wichita. Same thing, Wichita Falls, Lawton, Norman. Yeah, you got a 2% risk of a tornado. And then the wind threat, you have a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour within 25 miles in a given location in this yellow area. And then you got a pretty decent shot of hail. I mean, you got a 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger in this yellow area. So this is going to be a rocky weather night tomorrow night. And it could get going in the late evening before you go to bed. But this is mainly going to be for the overnight hours for tomorrow night. Remember, even though it says day 2, you're thinking day. That means that, for example, in this case, this extends from tomorrow morning through Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday morning through Thursday morning is the next day, which we're about to speak on. So let's bump it back up to this, and let's go to day 3, which is Tuesday. This is the big day of severe weather. Now, let's broaden this out a little bit. I mean, we broaden it out big time. This is a large area that runs the risk of severe weather. First, enhanced risk. Okay, we have a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather. All right, and this includes Little Rock down to just about Baton Rouge, includes all of northern Louisiana, just about Jackson, Mississippi, up to Greenwood, back to Meridian, to Hattiesburg, down to Macomb, St. Joseph, Pine Bluff, El Dorado. You guys run the risk of severe weather. Now, what does that mean? It means you have a 30% chance of any kind of severe weather. So we're still at day 3, so they're not at the point when it gets to day 2, and that's when they fine tune the outlook. Okay, so What we know now is there's just a 30% risk of severe weather within 25 miles of any given location in this orange area. We do not have a hatch risk as of now, and we'll speak on what that means when we need to in later videos. So right now, no hatch risk. So in this yellow area, slight risk, level 2 out of 5, and this includes, from central Missouri all the way back to eastern Oklahoma, eastern Texas, down to here to the Bayou of Louisiana, back through Alabama, Birmingham, Montgomery, and then includes Memphis and Jackson. Level 2 out of 5 risk of severe weather just means we have a 15% risk of any kind of severe weather. Tornadoes, damaging winds, hail. And then we got the dark green, level 1 out of 5 risk of severe weather. So definitely a big day. Hasn't uptrended though. That's the good news. And we'll speak on why it hasn't uptrended when we really start to break down the storm system. And then we still got day 4, which is Wednesday, remember. And this is basically a slight risk for Wednesday, level 2 out of 5. And like I clicked on it here, 15% risk of any severe weather. Winds, tornadoes, or hail. But I can tell you we're not going to get a 15% risk of tornadoes in this setup. I think this will be mainly wind-driven, but pretty large area of the I-95 corridor from the Florida-Georgia line all the way up here to the PA, Maryland, all the way through the Delmarva and into southern areas of New Jersey. So it's still extended pretty far up. So we will continue to run the risk of severe weather for Wednesday, and we'll continue to talk more and more on that as we get closer. So to explain this setup, we're going to start off from Monday, and I would say the beginning stages of this storm system starts to move in. Now, this is our storm system right here. All right, so you see this kind of area right in here. We see these highlighted colors right here. We got winds coming out the southwest. If you look at these wind barbs kind of like right in here, and that flag is pointing this way, that means winds are coming out of that way, which is the southwest. So we got this mid-level low sweeping down. The flow around this low is going just like this. All right, that's not the best color to use. I'm going to use this color. The flow around the low is going just like that. Low right in here. Okay, that's still not even a great color, but let's not get too hung up on the colors here. So the warm, moist air is getting pulled around this mid-level low, and as it does, it brings the thermodynamics out of the south to underlap the kinematics. The kinematics meaning all the wind energy right into here. So this is wind energy. This is the winds in about 18,000 feet up, 500 millibars. So at 500 millibars, the winds are screaming here through New Mexico at around 100 knots. That's fast, guys. That's like 115, 120. No reason to be in exact miles per hour. Okay, so winds are screaming way above our heads, like I said, 17, 18, 19,000 feet up in the air. And here's kind of the exit region of this jet moving in. So this is bringing all the wind energy needed for the kinematic wind energy needed for severe weather. Now, this will continue, and as we start to get into the late evening hours of tomorrow, a surface low begins to eject right into here. This really enhances not only the upper level wind flow, but the lower level wind flow too through here. And we'll speak on that here in a second. The low level jet winds about a mile above our head, about above the surface, 4,000 to 6,000 feet up. So this system continues to progress, begins to take on more of a neutral tilt, which means it's tilting like this. Okay, that's a neutral tilt. All right, when it's tilting kind of like this, that's a weaker storm system. That is a positive tilt. When it begins to tilt like this, that's a negative tilt. That means we have a significant and strengthening storm system, and that's what this will begin to do. And we start to get into Wednesday afternoon. I'm sorry, this is Tuesday afternoon, the big day of severe weather. And you see how in the upper levels of the atmosphere, the winds are screaming. We got this mid-level jet pushing 90, maybe at times 100 knots, 80 to 100 knots right through this enhanced risk area. So a lot of wind energy way up ahead. And at the same time, if you look at these little wind barbs here, they're pointing to the southwest, which means the winds are coming out the southwest, bringing that Gulf moisture. So as this kind of mid-level jet moves over this area, then it starts to tap in to the flow out of the Gulf. So we start to get some Atlantic moisture and really just Gulf moisture that really gets involved into the thermodynamics of this, and just the humidity. When you walk outside and it feels humid, there's some juice in the atmosphere. That's an ingredient for severe weather. So this continues, and as it progresses into Tuesday night, if we can get this going, pivotal weather can be so finicky sometimes. and we progress this into Tuesday evening. This jet, all this wind energy that you're seeing in the purples, the reds, the yellow, begins to move over the southeast, and with it, you're going to have a lot of energy too. So you see all this energy right here, this wind energy moving over the Carolinas, Georgia. It's probably going to be a lot of push in the atmosphere to produce some sort of line of storms Wednesday morning into Wednesday afternoon across the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. So that's our storm system. You can see how it progresses from west to east. And yeah, so next thing you would look at is the low-level energy. Now, this is for Monday afternoon. Okay, you can see the low-level jets beginning to crank over that slight risk area in Oklahoma. Remember, we have a slight risk over areas of Oklahoma and northern Texas for Monday into Monday night, into the wee hours of the morning, Tuesday morning. So low-level jet, your low-level winds normally aren't going to be as strong as your upper-level winds. But when you have like a low-level jet pushing 30 to 40 knots, that's enough wind energy to really get the atmosphere going kinematic-wise, which is wind energy-wise. So if you notice, these wind barbs are kind of more so coming out the south rather than the southwest. So there's a little bit of turning. So in the lower levels, winds are, coming more so out the south. And the upper levels, they're more so coming out the southwest. So there's a little bit of a directional change the higher up you get. Now, as we're getting into Monday evening, the low-level jet begins to ramp up even more, screaming out the south. You can see this wind barb pointing to the south, which means winds are coming from the south. And you start to get some higher-end wind energy for the kinematics for severe weather in Oklahoma. So you keep this going, and we start to get into Wednesday night. We're starting to get into Tuesday morning at this point. I'm getting my days mixed up. We're getting to Monday night into Tuesday morning. It's been a struggle fest this morning doing this video. Trust me, I've had to start over multiple times. But if we're starting to get into, as we're starting to get into the wee hours of the morning, Tuesday morning, okay, look at this low-level jet ramping over eastern Oklahoma, western Arkansas, northeastern Texas, and then even areas of Louisiana. I mean, that's a 50 to 55 knot low-level jet, in some cases over 60 knots. I mean, that's like well over interstate speed, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet up in the air. So it's definitely bringing a lot of wind energy, and not just for tornadoes, guys, but I think honestly the biggest threat with this will be winds, damaging winds. So if you kind of look where you see this right here where the wind barbs are kind of circling around, that's where our surface low is. And this is our strong low-level jet in response to our deepening surface low. Because obviously, lower pressure, the winds are going around it just like that. We talk a lot about that in hurricane season. So here goes that low-level jet sweeping through. And then we continue to look at it for the eastern U.S. and we're getting into Tuesday. Not a big day of severe weather in this region. Then we start to get into Wednesday. Holy smokes, this is moving very slow for us. But we're starting to move into the wee hours of the morning, Wednesday morning. And we start to get into Wednesday morning. I mean, the winds are already ramping. I mean, we're going to wake up to strong winds Wednesday morning across the Carolinas, the southern Appalachian Mountains, down here into Georgia, across Virginia. And even though this isn't surface winds, they're going to mix with the surface in the form of some very breezy conditions. And then as we're starting to get into Wednesday midday, you see kind of this yellow area. I mean, that's your low-level jet going at about, 75, 80 miles per hour, about 4,000 to 6,000 feet above your head. So, I mean, where you're standing is what I'm meaning. But you see how they're screaming out the south. This is yanking in some Atlantic moisture, I'm sure, into this too. So we're probably going to have some nasty storms in the upper southeast and the mid-Atlantic from this. That's going to be producing some damaging winds. So, yeah. Now, if we're speaking on humidity, surface moisture, your dew points. Okay, how much moisture are we going to have to work with this? And we keep this going here, and we're getting into Monday night. We have this slither of dew points getting into the 60s all the way through northern Texas and also into Oklahoma. And as this surface low really begins to develop right into here, we get this little slither, and this is 06Z Tuesday. It's basically in the middle of the night, Tuesday night, Monday night into Tuesday morning. And we get this corridor of dew points into the low 60s all the way through the heart of Oklahoma. This will bring your thermodynamics needing for severe weather. So you got that low-level jet really Increasing over Oklahoma, we got a nice solid moisture return out the south. Therefore, we have the overlapping ingredients for severe weather. And this will continue. And you can see how the cold front races through as the surface low ejects and the trough moves through. But that's a pretty sharp gradient of very dry desert air and very warm, moist, I wouldn't say very warm, but very moist air from the Gulf here. So we get these dew points spiking in eastern Texas into the 60s. This is getting well into Tuesday morning. And then probably our big kind of time frame of severe weather, which is Tuesday afternoon. If you notice, the moisture return into Arkansas isn't very impressive. And I think that's why the severe weather threat hasn't necessarily downtrended, but it hasn't uptrended. So we're only getting dew points into the, and this is probably a little underdone, but only into like the upper 50s, low 60s. And you can get severe weather in those kind of dew points, but you really need deeper moisture, like dew points well into the 60s, even some low 70s. But you just don't get a solid moisture return up into Arkansas, and then a cold front sweeps through and it's done. But definitely as you get into the late evening hours into Tuesday, look at this little corridor of dew points into the 60s, with probably a line of storms sweeping through. But the moisture return just doesn't look solid. And in response, you're probably not going to get higher in CAPE levels. Now, there's other things that drive CAPE levels besides dew points. But yeah, I'm just not seeing thermodynamic-wise a higher end event. That could change. Now, we're getting the Wednesday morning. I do think we'll have this kind of pulling mechanism north of this surface moisture all the way up here to the foothills of North Carolina, all the way up through the plains of eastern North Carolina. But even over here on the latest European model, it's not like you're getting deep moisture. You're getting dew points into the low 60s, maybe some mid 60s, but it looks like the cold front sweeps through pretty fast. By midday, you got drier air filtering in Wednesday, and then, your severe weather threat's done once you get dew points into the, 30s and stuff like that. So, as far as the CAPE levels, we'll just have to continue to watch this, but this is getting into Monday night. Look at the CAPE levels spiking all the way up into southern Kansas, and it's right here where the slight risk is. This is CAPE levels over 1,000 joules per kilogram. I really think we could have some nasty storms late tomorrow night into the wee hours of the morning, Tuesday morning. There's definitely enough energy. You got an increasing low-level jet. Surface moisture is there. Tomorrow, severe weather threat, and really, like I said, is for tomorrow night, could increase. I could see it increasing more so for what happens over the overnight hours. And then we start to get into Tuesday, big day of interest. And honestly, guys, there's not a lot of instability building here. Latest Euro has even downtrended even more. So I'll be interested to see what happens Tuesday. And I'm honestly starting to get more interested in what happens late tomorrow night into Tuesday morning. And some people might be wondering, well, why would it be downtrending? And it's because this storm system strengthens so fast early on. The surface low ejects north because a stronger storm wants to gain latitude. If this low was kind of sweeping across this area, then we would have a much more significant severe weather threat across the deep south. But it's strengthening, and it's ejecting more north rather than east. So, if we look at CAPE levels for Wednesday, and we'll scoop this ahead. We're getting into Wednesday morning. There's a little bit of energy here, couple hundreds in joules per kilogram in CAPE, but not really a big deal. And then we could have a spike in storm energy right here across Virginia and the Carolinas, but it's not overly impressive. And this isn't Mitch trying to downplay the severe weather threat. I just think, honestly, tomorrow night is a big night of severe weather. Like, here's your 988 millibar low, surface low developing right here, right? So this is 06Z Tuesday. This is in the middle of the night tomorrow night. Look at this line of storms erupting right here. Okay, they sweep across Oklahoma and northern Texas into areas of southeast Kansas. And then by the time we're waking up tomorrow morning, or just tomorrow morning in general, we got this nasty line of storms moving through eastern Texas, the Arklatex, eastern Oklahoma, starting to move into western Arkansas. Even getting into southwestern areas of Missouri. So, as this continues to progress forward, don't get me wrong, we're going to get a nasty severe weather event for Tuesday. Look at these storms moving across the Mississippi Delta. This is going to pack a lot of damaging wind chances. It's going to be a tornado threat embedded in this line of storms, but the surface low is still way up here. I just think the placement of the surface low is a little bit more unfavorable for, I would say, a more significant severe weather threat. Don't get me wrong, this is probably going to be a higher impact event, but I don't think it's going to be one of those. I don't know if it's going to be like a full-fledged outbreak, but like I said, this could change for sure. But this looks like more so a line of storms or multi kind of clusters of storms sweeping through. And then we're going to have a pretty significant line of storms that will be sweeping through. Let's see. That will be sweeping through late Tuesday night into Tuesday, into the overnight hours of Tuesday night into Wednesday morning. So this is a line of storms Tuesday evening sweeping through Alabama, sweeping through Middle Tennessee. And then we start to get into Wednesday morning, and it looks like it begins to lose some steam. That doesn't necessarily mean it is, but that is it sweeping through Wednesday into Thursday morning. So then cold air kind of follows. So yeah, guys, we'll continue to fine tune that, and we're probably going to stop talking as much on what's driving this and really begin to focus a lot on the short range model guidance as we get a little bit closer, because we've explained the setup to death. It's now time to focus on some of the short range models. But this is the winter weather side of this, and we're going to focus on the Euro here. It's the one that just ran about an hour or two ago. So this is getting into tomorrow evening, and look at all the moisture that blossoms. There's the severe weather rumbling through the southern plains. But let's focus on the cold weather side of this. There's that 988 surface low. We got rain switching to snow in areas of eastern Colorado, heavy too. We'll stop it here. This is midday Tuesday. You see this dark blue right in here? That's snow, but it's very strong winds associated with this too. Not a massive area of dark blue, but this is moderate to heavy snow flying around in pretty much central Nebraska points west, northeastern Colorado, even sections of Nebraska, western Kansas, like Goodland. And then we'll continue to keep this going, and this is getting into Tuesday evening. And it doesn't look like super heavy snow, but that could change. But we got snow flying around in central, a good chunk of the state of Nebraska, still snowing in northwestern Kansas. We got rain beginning to switch to snow even up here in areas of Iowa, Minnesota, snowing in South Dakota. And then we get it into the middle of the night, Tuesday night, into Wednesday morning. And look at this rain switching to very heavy snow, 983 millibar low. Rain switching to heavy, wind-driven snow. Not just in central Kansas, but also getting into eastern areas of Kansas too. Snowing like crazy. Rain dramatically switches to snow in like Omaha, Lincoln, the entire western half of Iowa. Even rain switching to snow up towards northwestern Missouri. Look at how heavy the snow is up here in Minneapolis, St. Paul area, northern Wisconsin, up here into the UP of Michigan. And this just turns into a powerful winter storm. Look at this corridor of snow. In fact, I would say that the winter storm portion of this storm system is trending more, I wouldn't say more significant than the severe weather event, but it's definitely starting to take more of the attention, in my opinion. This is a pretty gnarly corridor of heavy snow developing on the latest Euro, stretching from, all the way from Kansas City all the way up to the UP of Michigan on the backside of this low. Enough cold air, very strong winds. I'm telling you, this could be a powerful winter storm. So, as far as how much snow is showing on the latest Euro, it's very spotty. Remember, I mentioned that at the beginning of the video. Very, very spotty. Like, you got this weird little corridor right here. And models are really liking this little area right here of a few to several inches of snow. I don't think you're going to get feet of snow off this, and at least in the central plains. But it's just, remember, a blizzard isn't defined by how much snow you get. I think a lot of people think blizzard and they think feet of snow. And, I'll be honest, once upon a time I thought the same thing. But it's because you get a certain duration of time of snow falling with winds above 35 miles per hour. And I think that's 3 hours, I think it is. But I should know that, but I don't off the top of my head. But It even shows some snow for, say, Kansas City. Shows some accumulating snow here in eastern Kansas. I mean, snow all the way up into Omaha, Lincoln, and then we getting into Iowa, and then we go further up into upper Midwest. Now, the winds might not be as strong up here, might not be, but the snow could be heavier. But I mean, it has several inches of wet snow flying around in Minneapolis, and it has a pretty significant snowstorm. If you add in the winds for northern Wisconsin for March standards, I mean, maybe who knows? This isn't an exact forecast, just one model run. We'll be able to fine tune this as we get closer, but guys, it has a 6 to as much as 18-inch snowstorm for areas of the UP and northern areas of Wisconsin. So this will be a wild one to watch. If you live in the UP of Michigan and you're tuning in, I know there are people are. I would really watch this storm system. We'll fine tune it as we get closer. Now, we do have winter storm watches that we're the most confident. So, areas of northeast Colorado, northwest Kansas, central Nebraska, including areas of western Nebraska, and to several counties up into southern South Dakota, they are confident in a winter storm that is on the way for this area. So, the winds, guys, we only can extend this out through Tuesday evening, so that's why it's not showing big-time winds like across the upper Midwest. But look at these winds. This is the National Weather Service. I mean, guys, they're going for 50, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts across this area that will see heavy snow. And then we got the strong winds down here in the southern plains. This will be dry. So this is where we have a fire danger. Now, if we do kind of look at the European model, it does have strong winds, even getting into that area where the Euro likes the most snow up here in the upper Midwest, like 30, 40-mile-per-hour winds. But, man, this is going to be a big wind producer, like any trough ejection is across the middle of the country. But that fire danger, guys, is legit. We got to take this serious. We had some wildfires break out in my state yesterday around Horry County near Myrtle Beach, but it's at a critical – it's at a critical level in the red, but we actually have – an extreme area here in New Mexico and areas of southwestern Texas. We are no doubt going to probably get at least some brush fires that breaks out across the southern high plains. It always happens with these low pressures that develop and rapidly strengthen and eject across the country. So take the fire risk serious down here. Oof, it's a mouthful. All right, so today's weather, it's quiet right now. There's a little impulsive energy right here, a little upper low. This will get a severe weather opportunity going across areas of Texas, panhandle of Texas, and then southwest Oklahoma today. Right now, it's harmless. That could change here in the coming hours. A little bit of northwesterly flow up here, and we got the system right behind the first little impulse of energy already getting going across California. Now, as far as watches, warnings, and advisories, we've already talked about these winter storm watches. We got some winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings across areas of the Rockies, Sierra Nevada. And then we have these special weather statements for some fire dangers across the southeast today. It won't be as bad as yesterday, but still will be there. Now, one thing you don't see on that other map is we have high wind watches across this kind of dark brown area. Red flag warnings in the pink, and we do already have some high wind warnings up for areas of Texas and New Mexico. So you can tell that we're about to have basically a map lit up full of watches and warnings and advisories over the next 24 hours. But the risk of severe weather, we have a slight risk. This is for today. Slight risk that includes Elk City, Altus, hopefully I said that right, Vernon, back to Shamrock, Wheeler, Texas, Wellington, Childress here in the marginal risk. But this little area right here has a 5% risk of a tornado. Yeah, 5% risk of a tornado in this brown area. Very small area real estate, right? Not a huge area, but we're going to get some storms that are going to do some funky things today in this setup. I know storm chasers are giddy about this one, so if you follow any, they're probably going to be on this setup. And listen, I don't blame them. This is a pretty interesting setup today, and I think we're going to get a few tornadoes with this. Wind threat, just a 5% risk of damaging winds, and then the hail threat will be there. There's a lot of cold air aloft with this system, which means that we're going to have a higher chance of hail. So 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. So please be aware of this severe weather threat here today. Excessive rainfall outlook doesn't look like a big deal anywhere today. Southeast, quiet weather, nothing going on. Just it's cooler for a lot of areas. Just be aware of the fire risk in this region. Some rain will begin to enter Mississippi tomorrow morning. The Northeast, very cold day. We'll have some snow showers and bursts of snow that'll come off some of the Great Lakes out of southern Ontario. But outside of that, not a high impact weather day at all. And then we switch it into the southern plains. And there's the system swinging through. We're getting into this afternoon. And you see these little storms that fire up right here. These are the ones that could become dangerous. And then the main batch of rain sweeps through northern Texas, Oklahoma, eventually makes it to the Arklatex area and dies out. That storm system rapidly weakens. But before it weakens, we're going to get this. Here it comes. Boom. You see these storms right here that develop? These could produce a quick tornado. And you see these storms right into here, southwestern Oklahoma, kind of south of the Woodard area, and then definitely east of Amarillo. There's going to be some mischief right here with these storms. So just be aware of them. Don't let them catch you off guard. Just enough small area of overlapping conditions that support severe weather in this area. And the updraft Felicity swath not really symbolizing a whole lot, but it's there. So north central U.S., just some lake effect energy, but nothing too crazy. Very quiet day of weather. There's nothing really to speak on. And then the western U.S., our main systems beginning to move into the western U.S. Some higher elevation snow, a lower elevation rain, some gusty winds. And this will be spinning across the western U.S. and eventually moving into the plains. Temperatures, cold day, very, very cold day across the Northeast and New England. I mean, bitterly cold. You just want to stay inside today. Not a fun day to be outside. Definitely feels like the heart of winter up here for sure. And it's going to be much colder across the Southeast today. Some areas got well into the 70s yesterday. You know, those same areas will be about 20 degrees colder today. And then the western U.S. warm. Some of these areas that will end up getting a blizzard in a couple days are well into the 60s and 70s today. Like this area that's going to probably get a blizzard is going to hit probably 70 somewhere today. So, oof, sorry for the struggle there, guys. Some videos are going to be like that. But God bless all y'all. Y'all have a wonderful day. And we'll talk to you again soon.